You always hear the term German engineering thrown around, but what does it really mean? Today we'll be looking at the components and engineering that make Volkswagen Audi Group vehicles different than anything else in the globe. Let's get right into it. Well, one thing that they do that nobody else really does is their VR engines. So we got the VR6, which is like instead of having a 45-degree block, it's down to like I think it's like 10 or 15 degrees if I recall. So you're able to fit a six-cylinder engine into the space of roughly a four-cylinder engine. See, so this is the top layout of the VR6. Now, one other thing that I'd like to note about these V and we're going to talk about W engines here in a second is this is the front of the engine and the timing's all in the back. So that's another thing to be aware of. If you've never worked on one of these before and you're looking for the timing chain, well, don't look in the front because it's going to be in the back. All the other belts and such are on the front. Actually, I think as a consequence of that, might make it a little easier to access the timing, which is nice. Because if they have timing problems, well, you're going to want maybe a little easier. You don't have to take off all the pulleys. Then they also have a W8 engine, which is like it would be like a VR4 almost that they don't have. They don't have a VR4, but it'd be like two of those together in a. So they call that a W formation because it's two V's really. So W8 engine, they use that on a few of the higher end cars, and then there's also a W12 that is out there. So that is basically two VR6s sandwiched together like that. So that is kind of unique when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to the uh, Volkswagen Audi group as a whole. They have these odd kind of shaped up engines. So kind of an interesting idea, interesting thought. Might make some difficulties with how to repair them. But another thing that's kind of unique to them is they do on some of the, especially like the older models, like the early and mid 2000s down into the 90s. They wouldn't have a specific actuator test for an actuator. Like I couldn't turn an injector on and off. I couldn't turn the cooling fan on or off. I would have to wait till it gets through this whole sequence. So I would activate each of these actuators for 30 seconds. So the scan tool sequentially activates each of the actuators for 30 seconds, and then it just goes down the list. Now you can go forward on the list to go through each one until you get there, but it only activates it for 30 seconds. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little, that's definitely different than how most manufacturers do it. And then in order to reinitiate the test, the vehicle actually has to be cycled. The ignition has to be cycled as well. Start the engine, turn the engine off, and turn the ignition switch on again. Now, this is right out of our software manual for Volkswagen, because I know I get a lot of questions about not just Volkswagen in general, but more like expert mode, which there actually is a section in the manual about expert mode as well. We hope you enjoyed learning about the VR6, W8, and W12 engines that are unique to Volkswagen Audi Group vehicles. In the next episode in this series, we'll get into tips from a tech, where you'll get insider information from an expert technician and their experience with Volkswagen Audi Group vehicles. Stay tuned.